let's get into the giant mailbag.
What crazy thing did City do this week?
It's time for Mattress Running the Numbers. Ready for the main event?
The main event.
Frequent Miler on the Air starts now. Today's main event, Hilton delivers luxury through SLH. We're going to talk about Hilton bringing on their partner, small luxury hotels of the world, and they brought them on in a big way, bigger than expected. And we're going to talk about how to get great value from the luxury properties that are now in our reach through points.
That's right. And soon to be in your grasp after you've listened to those. That was perfect. Like they were within reach. Soon we will help you put them within your grasp. But before we get to all that, don't forget that if you want to jump ahead to a specific segment or you want to return to one, you can always find the timestamps in the show notes. You just need to expand the show description in order to find that. And wherever you're watching or listening, don't forget, subscribe, enable notifications, give us a thumbs up or a like or a bunch of stars, review, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. We always love to hear from you. All right. Speaking of hearing from you, let's drag out this week's giant mailbag.
All right. In today's giant mail, we have a letter from Whitney. Now, this was in regards to a recent podcast where we talked about how Amex has a pop-up that sometimes prevents you from getting new welcome bonuses. And I had a little rant that was just in fun, saying, I hate it when people call it pop-up jail because we should call it pop-up prison because of the alliteration. So Whitney writes in about that. Greetings, Greg and Nick. Just wrapped up listening to this week's podcast. I can't help but prod Greg a little bit, a Paquito joke, if you will.
Paquito poke.
Poke. A Paquito poke, if you will, for chastising us all for referring to Amex pop-up jail, given the easy alliterative opening for pop-up prison. But then himself proceeding to pass on the opportunity to proclaim pathways to prevail over pop-up prison as pop-up parole, which is plainly both alliteratively preferable and perfectly pertinent to its penitentiary partner, pop-up prison. Oh man, I almost got through that. Putting my prickly prattle aside, thanks once again for entertaining and informative podcast and all that you do. Your pedantic patron, Whitney.
Loved that. Fantastic. Well played, Whitney.
Perfectly played, Whitney.
Perfectly played. How did I miss it? Thank you, Craig. Perfectly played. Oh, well done. Yes. So I pop up parole for sure. From now on, Whitney. Thank you for coining that term for us. All right. Let's move on, I suppose, to this week's card talk. The card talk for this week is about the IHG Premier card and its new 60K certificates.
Yeah, so there's a new welcome bonus for the IHG Premier card for 5 nights, 5 certificates, basically, each worth up to 60,000 points, and you can add additional points to them. But the idea is it's, a total of 300,000 points is the welcome bonus. But I don't really want to talk about the new card, the new welcome bonus. What I want to talk about is the fact that these are 60K certs, which is odd because the card offers an annual 40K certificate as just part of its benefit. Every anniversary of having the card, you get a 40K certificate. So, I started wondering, is something changing here? And I looked at the language on the website for the credit card, not just the new offer, but the previous offer, the page where they talked about the anniversary free night. It's interesting because the language said you earn for each account anniversary year, you get a free night certificate with a current point redemption cap of 40,000 points. It says current, that's very odd language to have in there if they're not intending to change it, right? Am I reading too much into that?
The word current, that is interesting. I'll give you that. So the 60K certs alone, I don't think there's anything interesting there at all. So just the 5 60K free night certs. Here's why I don't think that's particularly interesting. We've seen the Chase Marriott card offer 5 50K free night certs, even though that card only offers a 35K cert every year. Hasn't changed anything about the card's 35K cert. So I could reasonably see a welcome bonus offering a higher certificate value than what the card ordinarily comes with. So that to me is not necessarily an indicator, But your pickup on the word current seems huge because that's a word I haven't seen used regarding free night certificates like ever on any other card. So the fact that they added that, somebody took the initiative to add that, that's a great catch. I think maybe you're right. Maybe we will see that at some point. Now, will it be 60K certs? Will it be 50K certs? Will it be something else? I don't know. What do you think? I mean, is this going to happen in isolation? Is it going to affect the card details? What are your guesses?
Yeah. I mean, you have a good point about how Marriott has done that without changing the annual free night. So that's a really good point. But my money is on that they're at some point planning to move to 60K certs, that they're introducing them, they're getting them
Could be.
into the computer system so
Mm-hmm.
they know what to do with them. So that these now exist as a thing that's going to be in people's accounts. So it'll be also then easier to make it an annual thing. Um, but if they do that, does that mean there will be other changes to the card? Will they, will they keep the current $99 annual fee, or will that go up?
That's a good question, but here's another possibility. Obviously, we saw Marriott add a middle tier card with a higher free night certificate, those 50K certs that do come with what is the bevy or whatever's in the middle. The $250 cards have a 50K cert. Will IHG introduce that 60K cert on a more expensive card? Is this like a
Oh,
precursor to
oh,
adding a mid tier card
yeah. Or well, or or a
or a
higher
lot,
than
yeah,
mid.
higher end card,
Yeah,
perhaps?
yeah. So maybe a card that would offer diamond status as a automatic perk, because the current IHG Premier and the Premier Business card offer diamond status with 40K spend. I could see them introducing a premium card that would just have diamond status built in. So that's possible. All kinds of possibilities. We don't have any answers here.
Who knows?
We're just making things up.
Making things up as we go along. Yeah, I mean, we don't have any advance info. When that kind of thing happens, we don't usually know in advance, or if at all, not far in advance. So this is totally conjecture here, but I do think that there must be something that's going to happen. Whether that's and I think it's a decent guess. You make some sense as to why you think this 40K cert might go up. I mean, it's also worth mentioning that we've heard from a number of people that the value of IHG points hasn't seemed as strong over the last, I don't know, year at least anyway. And so maybe it makes sense that they'll increase the value of the free night certificate because those free night certificates have gotten harder to use for the cap value anyway, I think, in a lot of ways. But I don't know. I mean, do you feel like the value of IHG points has decreased?
I mean, I haven't noticed it one way or another, because and it's hard to notice with IHG, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they don't have an award chart. Their points required for hotel stay bounce around. I mean, and not just a little bit. Like, you could see changes you could see it going up and down for the exact same dates you're looking at over time. And so,
Yeah. It's really
yeah,
hard. Yeah,
it's
like I
hard.
said,
Yeah,
hard to know, but yep. All right, so maybe we'll see some changes coming. Interesting nonetheless. You've got our attention, IHG. Let's see what you do with it.
yeah,
All
we'll
right,
be on the
let's
lookout.
let's talk about what crazy thing did Greg the frequent miler do this week?
Yeah, I did a really crazy thing. I wanted to go to London, and I booked through American Airlines to fly
Oh,
American Airlines itself. That was the crazy thing I did.
swing and a miss. So
Oh
why
boy.
why did you do that? And more importantly, what happened?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that we call that crazy, but years ago, I flew American Airlines quite a bit because I had an opportunity to get top tier executive platinum status, and then I did a bunch of flying at the time to try to maintain it, um and back then I just had so many bad experiences. I estimated that about 70% of my trips involved a delayed, like significantly delayed or canceled flight. I mean, it was that bad. And so
Oof.
I just gave up. I was like, there's no point in having executive platinum status if flying it's going to be that unpleasant. But years later I started flying AA again and didn't have any trouble. I haven't had any trouble until trying to get to London. So the story is we meaning my wife and I went to the airport on Sunday evening to fly. The itinerary was to fly from Detroit to Charlotte, and then the late night flight, like 11:30 p.m. to London. And I like those really late night flights to Europe because you know, you're tired enough that you could go to sleep right away. And if you have a lie flat seat, then you get, you know, just you say no to dinner and just put it down in bed mode, and then you have enough time to get in some sleep. And because flying to London or anywhere in Europe in the east from the East Coast doesn't take that long. So anyway, it was a great itinerary, and it would have been very nice if we had gotten to Charlotte in order to take that overnight flight that was perfectly timed. Um, but the plane we got on, we actually got on the plane in Detroit and sat there at the gate and sat there, and finally a pilot came on and said there was both weather in Charlotte. They like to point that out. Oh, and a minor maintenance issue. so so I'm
Minor
like,
issue, huh?
yeah, like, oh, this is not good. And so I started like looking at other options, and I couldn't find any way to get it was too late by then to get an overnight to London or really to anywhere in Europe. And so I found that there was an American Airlines flight the next day where it was a daytime flight. So I could fly Detroit to Chicago to London and get into London Monday evening. And the cool thing is it was actually fewer miles, and this was business class. It was fewer miles to book this than the trip that we were on. So I quickly booked it, and then with the plan of just canceling the one I was on.
Wait, but you were
This was
already on that plane,
we're
right?
we're on the plane. So before booking it, I asked the flight attendant, "Hey, if I come up with an alternative, can we get off the plane?" And he actually said, "Sure." So that was
Nice.
a well,
I
not only
wouldn't
that,
expect that to be that easy.
yeah, that to me was a hint that we were making the right decision to abandon that. You know, if they're like, "Please get
Right.
off the plane," you know things aren't
Right.
good.
He knows you're not
And
going anywhere, so you may as well get off now.
exactly, you know, they're
One
not
less
even
angry
bothering.
person to have to deal with.
They're not even bothering to close the doors. So, yeah, and in fact, that you know, just jumping ahead to, you know, it was the right decision because I looked up later, and that flight to Charlotte didn't take off that night at all. It left at 9 a.m. the next day, and but the flight from Charlotte to London left on time, so obviously we would have missed that. So anyway, so
So you saved
the
it.
we saved it and saved some miles to
Right.
boot, right?
What are you
So
complaining about, Greg? This sounds like it all worked out.
so it was all
All's well that
great.
ends well.
It was all great. So we get to so the next morning we get to the terminal, and you know what? Clear saved us because the TSA pre-check line was like crazy long. Clear was empty. And so this is kind of unusual. Usually it's like it's always a toss of whether Clear saves any time at all. But this time it clearly saved a lot of time. And we get to our gate in time, no problem. And then, of course, our flight is delayed.
The flight from Detroit to Chicago, this is.
Exactly. And so we're worrying a little bit, but not too bad because we ended up boarding just about 20 minutes late. Not too bad. We'll make it fine. Then we land in Chicago, and there's no gate that they can roll up
Of
to.
course
So
not.
we sit there on the tarmac for who knows how long. We would have been sweating a lot, but we'd already received an alert about the next flight that was delayed. So the nice thing about American is you could usually count on, you know, the second flight being delayed too.
Can usually count on it not taking off on time. Well, that's good. So again, once again, you've been saved here. You booked AA knowing that you'd be delayed, but also that the flight to London would probably be delayed, and they came through.
And so we did make it to that flight on time, boarded. Well, we boarded. It was late, but we boarded, and it's a beautiful, the 787. These seats are beautiful. They were really comfortable. It was very. I was impressed how nice it is.
Any indication
Ah,
why that flight was delayed, by the way?
um, no, but we were a little concerned when they said it had just rolled out of the hangar, and we were wondering. So it wasn't delayed coming to Chicago,
Right.
obviously,
Right.
you know. Um, so it appears that whatever they're doing in the hangar, they didn't do so well because we took off fine. And about half an hour later, my wife hears a loud thump, and suddenly she said the sound of the engine sounded different. That wasn't good.
Oh. Oh.
Um, I had my headphones on, so I didn't hear the thump. But what I did notice was the in-flight entertainment going completely black, the seat controls going completely dark. So I'm like partially reclined,
Oh.
and I can't change the position of
Oh
my
no.
seat at all.
Oh no.
The flight attendants now are running around like, and so they all like run up to the front and they're whispering, and we're like, okay, clearly this is bad. I had slippers on. I'm putting on my shoes because I know, like,
Right.
whatever happens
You're
next,
sweating.
I don't want to be caught
You
in
want
my
your shoes
slippers
on.
anyway.
You want your shoes on.
I want my shoes on.
Whatever that's
I want
gonna
to be
be.
able to run if I have to. I
Right.
don't know where I'm going to run when I'm on an airplane, but I'm
Who
getting ready.
knows? Right.
Getting all my stuff together, and sure enough, the pilot says we had a slight problem with the right engine,
Small
which
maintenance issue, is that?
small issue, and I'm like, small problem, like it stopped, is that the small problem that you had with your whatever? But he said, so we're going back to Chicago, and the flight back, it was fine. No problem getting
Thank
back. We
goodness.
landed fine. Yeah, so that was great. We had a successful American Airlines flight, took off and landed, no problem.
Great might not be the first word that comes to mind in that case,
We
but
we've just now been traveling for, like, it felt like we'd been traveling for 2 days now and hadn't gotten anywhere. I mean, Chicago is
it's
really close to
Chicago.
Detroit,
Oh, the beautiful
and
Midwest. I mean, come on.
yeah, I mean, we could have driven to Chicago the night before and been there like overnight.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Anyway, um, so they have everybody like get off the plane before they announce what's going to happen next, and then they say, and it's about 10 a.m. in Chicago. They tell us that a new plane will be coming to get us and take us to London. It won't be taking off till 5:30 p.m. Well, I did some mental math, and a meeting that my wife had to be at the next morning. She wouldn't have made it if we
Even if American
got,
were on time.
even if it was on time, right? We needed an earlier flight. There were only two earlier flights. One was a British Airways flight. The other one was United. The British Airways flight was full.
Oh.
I already knew that because I'd done, Google flight searches. The United
Mhm.
flight, though, was still selling seats in business class at least. And so that was good. We were booked in business class. So we ran to the American Airlines, not the Admirals Club, the flagship lounge. And that's the higher level one that you get into when you're flying international business or first class. And we went to, a ticket counter in the lounge, and I asked if they could get us to London sooner than the next flight would go. At first, she said no, and I said, "Well, what about the United flight?" She says, "Well, United only shows a 9 or no 11:30 p.m. something like that." So I said, "Well, United's letting me. I could buy two seats right now through United." So I pulled it up right then and then showed it to her. So she did some more typing and then magically found that yes, in fact, there were seats. Um,
Magic.
I
It's
thought
magic.
so I was very excited for a moment until she called over her manager to ask if she could book us into that United flight, and the manager said, "Only if it's not an award flight." And I'm like, "Dum dum dum."
Uh, what about
um,
what if it is an award flight?
yeah, so I said, "Well, it is an award flight, but we've been trying now for 2 days to get to London on AA, and it's been foiled both times." And so she made an exception. They it took a while, but they got us booked into the United flight,
That's
and we had
awesome. At
plenty.
least they did that.
Yeah, yes, they did that. We had time to enjoy both the AA flagship lounge and the United Polaris lounge in Chicago, which I don't know how many people can say they went to both of those lounges same day on the same trip, but we did. And United flight took off on time. Everything was good with the United flight, and we arrived in time. My wife got to her meeting on time, so
Excellent. Well, it's good that United was able to save that. And also, I think great takeaway here, despite, the laughs that we had along the way, is that you really have to help yourself, right? Because if you
Mm,
hadn't already figured out the backup plan from the first flight, probably, then you would have been stuck in a line of people, and who knows if you'd have been at the front of that line, and who knows how quick you might have gotten service, and whether there would have been any seats left. And then same thing with the second flight. I mean, again, if you didn't take the initiative to know that there were seats on United, and B, to know that you should and could ask for them to book you on United. I mean, I wonder how many people
yeah,
wouldn't even think that that's an option.
right.
They're just primarily award travelers, and would have no idea. I mean, I never would have before I got into this game that was even something that could possibly happen.
Yeah, yeah, those are both great things to know, and and it's not, it's not like the agent. I don't think she was like purposely deceiving me about the United flight. I think she just, in doing a cursory look, all she saw
Yeah,
was the later one, and
yeah.
um, but you're
But
right.
again, like if you
I
didn't
think most
look,
people
then
would have just walked
just
away and
take it.
been like,
Yeah.
oh well,
Oh well. Yeah, that's
trips
the
canceled.
best they can do.
Can you fly us back to Detroit? Because we're not going to make the meeting, something like that.
Right.
I don't,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
um,
So
the,
good
the other
to
lesson, the
look
other
that up.
lesson is I was so happy that we never checked bags,
Oh, right. Right.
I do not,
Right.
as much as I trusted American initially going into this flight, I didn't trust them enough to check bags with them. And that was a really good call.
Yeah, that would have been a mess. That would have been a mess. Well, thank goodness for all that. Thank goodness you made it to London in one piece. That you didn't really need the shoes after all. Could have kept the slippers on. We're all glad for that. So all right, let's move on to this week's award talk. And so for this week's award talk, first up, I have how my son saved me $30 at least the other day. So my 6-year-old son, we flew from Hartford, Connecticut to Myrtle Beach and then back to Hartford, Connecticut. So Hartford, Connecticut Bradley International Airport has an escape lounge. And so on the outbound portion, we went to the escape lounge, which is just a very, very small escape. If you're looking for, I think I made the joke on Slack. If anybody's looking for a small escape, then might I suggest the Hartford Bradley International Airport, because it's the tiniest little lounge ever, just about, but with decent food and nice
Yes.
service. So we were happy to get a free lunch and coffee and all the rest of that on the outbound. And funny enough, it's directly next to the Spirit gates. So we were flying Spirit. Who would have thought that you'd put an escape lounge next to the Spirit gates? But hey, we won't complain. It was right next to the gate we were departing from. And sure enough, we arrived back at that same gate at the end of the trip. And so we walked directly past the escape lounge. And so my 6-year-old sees the lounge, recognizes it from the other day, and says, "Daddy, can we go to the lounge?" And my wife jumped in first and she said, "No, we're not flying anywhere else today." And then she kind of paused for a second and looked at me and she said, "Can we?" And
Yeah.
and I said, "No, I don't think you can visit it on arrival. I'm pretty sure no." And so we continue walking towards Starbucks, where we plan to get coffees and milk for the kids and some sort of a snack, since we'd gotten on an early morning flight that morning. And so, like I said, probably would have spent like $30. And we're on the way, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't know for sure whether or not you can access an escape lounge on arrival. I'd never tried before. So I gave it a Google, and I couldn't really find a conclusive no when I Googled it. And in fact, I found some responses from specific lounges that said yes. So I said, well, let's go back and give it a shot, because then we get a snack and some coffee and whatnot. And so sure enough, long story short, we did get into the lounge. Now, excuse me, escape lounges are now on priority pass. So at first I showed the priority pass and I said, are we able to access the lounge on arrival? And I haven't tried before. And the agent looked at the priority pass and she kind of looked skeptical and she said, "I'm not sure with priority pass." And so I quickly followed and said, "Oh, well, we're both platinum card holders too." And she said, "Well, I know you definitely can with the platinum card." So I didn't have her try with the priority pass. Maybe I should have in hindsight, but I assumed probably no, because the rules for the priority pass say that you can access the lounge 3 hours before your departure. So I'm guessing you can't probably on arrival. But anyway, so I pulled out my platinum card, couldn't find my wife's platinum card, but if you're not aware, you can pull up the MX app. And in the MX app, if you log in under membership, there is a lounge section where you can create a QR code. And so we did that. So those got us into the lounge. So we got a free lunch on arrival back at that airport. And so that was awesome. That was nice. We got our coffees to go because they had to go cups there. So that was a nice little savings that I wouldn't have thought of. So that's tip number one. Escape lounges can be accessed on arrival with a platinum card. Little did I know.
Yep.
Maybe I should have known that. Did you long know that, Greg?
I did not know that, but I want to point out another tip that's sort of buried in there. Maybe you were about to get to this. That Amex's Centurion lounges, you don't get to have a visitor for
Ah,
free anymore unless you spend $75,000 on the platinum card. So, Nick and his wife have each having their own platinum card wouldn't have been enough for the whole family at a Centurion lounge, but other lounges that you could get in with platinum cards, like the escape lounges and I can't remember which other ones, but uh, do allow a guest to come in. So I'm assuming you each guested one of your kids in is how
yeah,
it worked, right?
absolutely, yes. Although I will say this interestingly, because you are right. I didn't think to make that point that you are supposed to still get guests. Although I thought it was odd when I pulled up the MX app to pull up the QR code for my wife, it actually said no guests for the escape lounge, which surprised me because my understanding is that you do still get two guests. And in fact, we've done that a couple of times. So I didn't expect that to be an issue. And I think maybe it was just something wrong in the app. They didn't say anything. They
Yeah.
didn't bat an eye at it and didn't charge us anything, obviously,
Yeah,
for the
I've
kids.
I've
So
done I've done guests
yeah,
a number of times. So unless
yeah.
that's changed, yeah.
Right. All right. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, which is not really related, but from the same trip. Oh no, rather, I'm sorry, a different tip for number two. Rather, there was something else from that, but I'll hold that for a different day. So the second thing that I want to talk about in award talk this week is digging into the fare class when you're booking via Chase. So this is something that came to mind because I ran into a situation where I needed to book a flight within Europe, a very short, cheap flight within Europe on a regular, full service carrier. And so I went to book it in the Chase portal, the Chase travel portal, to use points at 1.5 cents per point with my wife's Sapphire Reserve. But when I went to book it, it wouldn't tell me, it just said economy class. It didn't say which kind of economy class. And if you've booked a flight within Europe lately, you know that basically every carrier has the equivalent of a basic economy type of an economy ticket, and then more like a full economy type of a ticket. And usually the basic economy tickets don't include a checked bag. Maybe they don't even include a carry-on. There's all sorts of economy light fares and then more full fared economies. And Chase only had one economy class fare that the carrier was selling three different economy class fares for. So I didn't know which one it was. It didn't line up exactly with the price. It was a little bit more expensive than the full, most expensive economy class fare through the airline's website. But that doesn't necessarily tell me much. I don't know. Maybe Chase didn't have the best price. So what I did was I looked at the fare class, which they'll show usually towards the end of booking, and it was a U fare class. So I said, okay, great. Let me go back to in this case, it was Lot Polish. And I went back to the Lot Polish website and I said, okay, let me see which fare class is the one that includes a checked bag because we needed that. And of course, all three of the economy class fares were U fares. They all said fare class U. So that didn't help me at all. So the next step that I did here that worked out, I think, is I expanded the fare rule. So usually there's a little link somewhere when you're close to the end of the booking process that says
Yeah.
see full fare rules. And that lists all the stuff about whether you can have a stopover and a connection. Do you need a Saturday night stay or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of stuff that probably won't ever matter to you. But when I expanded that on the Lot Polish site, it had a fuller code. It was like U SAV for like saver for the light fare. And then there was a U, and I can't remember, STD for standard. And then there was like a flex also. And so there were a few different codes that went with the U. And so I did the same thing, expanded the fare details on the Chase side and did a search for just those like SAV and STD and FLX, just those three little
Yeah.
three letter combinations. And sure enough, I only found references to STD and Flex in the fare rules on the Chase side. So I took that to mean that it was one of those two that included a checked bag. So that was what I needed. So I went ahead and booked it. And sure enough, yes, it did include the checked bag as I expected with as the like standard or flex economy, whichever it was. I can't remember the exact case in that situation, but more so the point here was that if you're ever not sure, you're booking that kind of thing, expand those boxes with the full fare rules, and usually you'll find some additional coding information in there that might help you figure out which fare it is.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great tip. I've definitely had that happen where I've been trying to the same situation where I've been like, I think this is like their main cabin economy, but I don't really know. And
No.
it's
Yeah.
happened to me more like I think it's more clear maybe when you're flying like US based airlines, but when you're booking a another airline that because they have all these different they don't have that the same terminology we
Terminology,
have
right. Right.
of like a basic economy versus regular.
Yeah, it's like
They
economy
have like
go and economy,
flights and yeah,
this
yeah,
and yeah.
just different terminology. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it becomes very confusing. That's a great tip. It also reminds me of a reader tip we got recently that said that when booking flights through Chase's travel portal, when they went in with their Sapphire preferred, they didn't see basic economy as an option for the flights. They just saw the regular. But when they went in with like a Chase Freedom card as their main card, then they saw basic economy as an option, which
Interesting.
is kind of a useless. I mean, it's good to know, but it's a
That's
problematic
annoying.
because if you
Yeah.
want to book with points, you're not going to get uplift that the Sapphire Preferred or their Sapphire Reserve or the Ink Business Preferred would give you if they're not going to show those
Yeah.
fares.
I wonder though if you could call, you could probably call and get it over the phone,
Y-
right? You could probably
Yeah, they said that they tried that and
it
it
didn't
didn't work,
work.
but I do question that, like, maybe they didn't get an agent that knew how to do it or
Knew
something.
what they were doing. Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Good point. All right. Last little piece for award talk is the tail end of that escape lounge story was that the next thing we went to do is we had to wait for our bags at the Spirit baggage thing because there was nobody manning it, of course. And at that point we had wasted a bunch of time in the lounge. So our bag was locked up somewhere. So I went to go get the car from the economy class lot. And for some reason, the battery was completely dead, totally dead. Like I only got one door to unlock. I couldn't even get the other doors to unlock. It's how dead it was. And so I pulled up AAA on my phone. But before I called AAA, I called my wife because she was still in the airport waiting for the bag. And I asked her to check at the information desk and see if they have a jumpstart service. I thought I had seen something on the website for Hartford Airport. And sure enough, they have a free jumpstart service there. And I bet there's other airports that have that too. So if you ever end up in that
Oh,
situation, it's worth checking if
oh,
they offer
I
that.
can assure you Detroit will do that too. The Detroit
Yeah.
airport. I've had that happen a couple times actually.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, this is the first time it's happened to me. Also, parking is incredibly cheap at Hartford, $30 for up to 2 weeks. But yeah, I'm a fan of
you
Hartford
you
Airport all
could
of a sudden.
stay almost one day in the Detroit airport for that.
All right, all right. Let's move forward because this week we've got a juicy one. We're ready for this week's main event.
Main event time. Hilton delivers luxury through SLH. We're going to talk all about the small luxury hotels of the world portfolio. So until I don't know earlier this year, Hyatt had the relationship with SLH, and you were able to book SLH hotels through Hyatt and use Hyatt points to book them. It wasn't all SLH hotels, but it was a number of them, and we liked that whole thing. And then Hyatt bought Mr. and Mrs. Smith and said goodbye to the relationship with SLH, and we were very disappointed with how Hyatt went about integrating Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which is that they did make all the Mr. and Mrs. Smith properties bookable with points, but at a poor award rate. So you're paying more, points based on the cost, the cash rate of the hotel, so you're not getting great value from your points. So we were then we found out that Hilton had partnered with SLH, and at first we were just cautiously optimistic. We were like, "Yay, there'll be a new way to book," but the thing is, Hilton has two ways of pricing awards. They have premium room awards, which are outrageously expensive with points and are tied to the cash rate, and then they have standard room awards where they can be pretty expensive, but each one has a maximum, and so like you're not going to pay more than that maximum amount, and so sometimes you could get really good value that way. And so we were like, well, if they make these available as standard rooms, then that should be good. And it turns
I
out,
was skeptical. I was skeptical. I didn't think that was going to
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
But
I think I tend to look at the bright side, like, so I think
yep,
I was hoping so hard, so I wanted it to be true. So I believed it to be true, and then I met with Hilton, and they told me in advance that yes, there's going to be standard rooms. You're going to be able to use fifth night free awards. You're going to be able to use free night certificates. And at the time, there wasn't any SLH bookable through Hilton, so I just had to take their word for it. But now, oh, and they also said that there would be something like 100 SLH properties coming online this year. And boy, they over delivered on that because they
Yeah.
have now hundreds. They have what it is. They announced that they're bringing on 400 or around 400. They as we record this, they have around 300, just short of 300 in the system. Um, and and then they're going to be adding the others as they go. But that's fantastic that they all appeared almost overnight.
Yeah, I mean, I think that really I've been impressed with Hilton's move to like under promising and over delivering, which I always think is a smart strategy. I don't know why more companies don't make it a point to do that, but that's what I think they've done here, that they've done really well because and I think that I think they probably thought that they would get these 400 online this year, but they didn't say that in the beginning to set expectations. And surely it's got to be tough. I mean, you got to recognize that SLH doesn't own and manage the properties. It's like loosely, some sort of a consortium, like an advertising marketing scheme to help these small boutique hotels get people coming in the door. So the computer system integrating that has got to be challenging. So I
Right.
imagine that was not something that would be an overnight thing, and they knew that. But I think they probably had some confidence that they were going to be able to get more than expected and give us a good surprise. And I like that. I'm excited about that. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. And most of the ones that were in the Hyatt portfolio that I've looked up are in the Hilton portfolio now. Not, excuse me, not all of them, but there's also appears to be quite a few that were not in the Hyatt system. So, because I went in thinking, all right, the ones that were in the Hyatt system are the easy ones to get because
Right.
they already know how to integrate,
Hmm.
with a hotel chain. And
And you don't have to
so
sell them on the idea. Whereas I imagine you do kind of
yeah.
have to sell individual properties on the idea of this initially, right?
Right, right. Yeah, or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it works behind the scenes, but I'm impressed with, what they did. Because if you remember when Hyatt rolled it out, it was very slow.
Yeah.
The hotels trickled out over time, over a long period of time. So to get even close to 300 so quickly is really, really impressive in my book.
Yeah, although I will say there are some that were bookable via Hyatt that I have not seen yet via Hilton.
Mhm.
So they don't seem to have all of those, which is kind of surprising, but equally surprising, yet in a good way, is that they do, like you said, have properties that I never saw via Hyatt before. So that's kind of made it exciting too, because there's an opportunity to discover some new places that I didn't even know existed because I had not seen them before through Hyatt. So that's pretty cool, especially because a number of these SLH properties are pretty high end, and that's not all the good news. That obviously they rolled them out. They have standard rooms at these places, and in some cases, some of them have suites that are classified as standard rooms. Right? I don't know how many you've seen, but
Yeah.
I found a few anyway that have had junior suites or suites classified as standard rooms.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's not only at properties that only have suites.
Right.
Obviously the ones that are only suites, it would make sense. But yeah, I've seen ones where they have lower end rooms and suites, and the suites are available at the standard rates, and that's really surprising. I hope if it's an accident that Hilton's not listening to this.
Right, listen, Hilton, if you're listening right now, turn down the volume. Okay, turn on the volume for a second. So
Yeah.
the one place I wrote about, the View Lugano on Lake Lugano in Switzerland, the review I read about the property from Head for Point said that the whole property only has 20 rooms and 18 of them are identical, and there's two suites. One's a junior suite, one's a full suite. So again, 20 entire rooms. And I was able to book three rooms, three out of the 20, including the junior suite, one of the two suites in the entire place as a standard room award. So I was just amazed that that's possible. Now, will that last with Hilton? I don't know. Hopefully, they still have the volume down and don't go to fix things like that right now. But that's not all the good news. There's still even more good news, right?
Yeah, yeah. So if you have a gold or diamond status with Hilton, which by the way, gold status is so easy to get, you should have that. You get space available room upgrades and continental breakfast for up to two guests. Now, in reality, like so, it says continental breakfast. In reality, I think in most cases they'll be serving whatever their standard breakfast is, which won't always be limited to continental, but that's the minimum they're requiring, I think.
Yeah, and so this is in some regards a bit of a downgrade from the Hyatt partnership because when they were partnered with Hyatt, if you booked through Hyatt, you got free breakfast whether you had status or not with Hyatt. So now you're
Right.
going to need to have gold or diamond status officially. Now, I think that there are probably quite a few SLH properties that just provide breakfast for everyone, so it may not be an issue at all in some cases,
Yeah.
but at least in some, maybe you'll need to have your status to get that.
Right, right. Yeah, I expect it's very common to have free breakfast in SLH properties, but yeah, at least you can be assured without having to research it ahead of time that you're going to get some form of free breakfast. So that's really good as long as you have the status. You're right.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so what we're seeing is when a standard room is available at these properties, uh, the point price, the points per night that Hilton charges is going to be a maximum of 150,000 points. And that's for the, top of the top end properties. We see others with that where it's a maximum of 120,000 and some others that are lower than that. That sounds like a lot if you're used to Hyatt prices, but consider that Hilton points can generally be earned at about three times the rate of Hyatt points for a variety of reasons. And then you can kind of in your mind like scale down. Okay, 150,000 points would be kind of like paying 50,000 Hyatt points, which is not that different from the 45,000 that they were charging at the top end before. And 120,000 is like a 30,000 point
40,000.
spent 40,000, sorry,
Yep.
for Hyatt.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Not that different.
yeah, and we're seeing that like you can get fantastic value per point this way compared to what Hilton points are usually worth. Now you did some poking around and you found some good value there, didn't you?
Yeah, I found a whole bunch of places. So going back to our most recent reasonable redemption value for Hilton points, we had found them to be worth the median was 0.48 cents per point, so we'll call it half a cent per point. But even more interesting than that is that the 90th percentile in the test that we had done was 0.65 cents per point. So what that would tell you is that the vast majority of instances when you're using Hilton points, they're going to be worth less than 0.65 cents per point. It's pretty rare to get more than that. Yet, poking around
Right.
with SLH, there are many opportunities to get significantly more. I mean, you can certainly get the 0.65 or better. And don't get me wrong, there are some situations where you're only going to get about a half a cent as you would, at other Hilton properties. But there are quite a lot of instances where you can get 1 cent per point. I didn't even include the Maldives properties in that post, and all of those I think would have been 1 cent per point or more. And then I included a bunch of different places around the world, some of which were 1.1. I think I had one in there that was maybe 1.3 cents per point because you could book some suite that was significantly more expensive than the cheapest room at that particular property. And some of these places look pretty amazing. I mean, we're talking about places that cost 12, 13, 14, $1,600 a night. So they're pretty incredible looking hotels, not just high prices, but places that get great reviews too. When you Google it, you're looking at places that get 4.6, 4.7, 4.8 stars out of 5, which, people are more likely to leave a negative review than a positive review almost all the time. So I always find places that maintain averages that high must be consistently doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, yeah, and it might not sound people that aren't that familiar with Hilton, like 1 cent per point value might not
Right.
sound exciting, but if you think about that, Hilton points are usually worth about half a cent each. That's the usual value. Then you realize we're talking twice that, and so that really is special, and it goes even above that. And you can get even more better value because fifth night free awards are allowed through these. So if you're going to stay 5 nights, you're only going to pay for 4, and then that spikes the value up even higher.
It does require a lot of points, though. I mean, definitely, we're talking about higher end places here. So if that doesn't
Yeah,
appeal to you in general, then using points for these is still not going to appeal to you, even though you could get 1 cent per point. If you would rather stay at a more economical property, most of these SLH properties are not really going to fit your needs then, because you may look at it and say, well, yeah, but for 150,000 points per night, I can get like 5 nights at a Hilton Garden Inn somewhere, or maybe
right.
even a full Hilton in some places. So it's a trade-off. I think this will appeal to people who have been looking for a really incredible use of Hilton points in terms of luxury properties that would otherwise be, I look at these places that are as being kind of untouchable with cash. It's not necessarily that I couldn't,
Yeah,
scrimp and save and pay for one of them, but I wouldn't, and
right.
so
Exactly.
like that's the I don't know. The takeaway for me is that if you've been sitting on a lot of Hilton points waiting for a great opportunity, like, your train has come in, because these places are that opportunity that you just didn't have with Hilton. And also, I said in the post, Hilton has plenty of nice properties. I've long enjoyed Hilton properties, but they don't have a lot of places where you're going to be as excited about the place you're staying as you are about the place you're visiting. And SLH adds some of those types of places where you're going to be like, oh, wow, I can't wait to go there, but I also can't wait to stay there. And so I think that's pretty cool. If you like that type of thing, this is really good news, I think.
It really is. I mean, there are some really amazing looking properties, including, ones that we enjoyed before.
Right.
The hotel that Nick loves in Lake Como, the Eichert's private hotel in Queenstown, New Zealand, which I loved. They're there, and the other cool thing is, let's say you have free night certificates from Hilton, you can use those at these properties. So you could, get a few of those free night certificates and get free stay at one of these properties that typically charge like $2,000 a night or more. I mean, you're talking about some serious luxury at these things.
You really are. And I think that the free night certificate angle is something that's likely to appeal to even more people than the points. If you aren't collecting a lot of Hilton points, if you're not somebody who's staying at Hilton and collecting lots of points for your stays, or you haven't been collecting lots of welcome bonuses, so you're not sitting on a huge balance of Hilton points. The thing is, the free night certificates from the credit cards still make these places accessible. And in exchange for the cost that that you're going to incur in terms of collecting those free night certificates from credit cards, I just think that the potential value here, the luxury stays that are possible, is just amazing, really. I mean, you could come out with a pretty fantastic vacation for a pretty reasonable cost.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's talk about how to get Hilton points, and then we'll talk about how to get the free night certificates as a separate thing, and then we'll go on from there. Um, so starting off, how to get points. First of all, if you have multiple people in your household, or you have a partner that you travel together with, both of you can work together to collect Hilton points, and Hilton will let you for free move points from one person to the other, so you can combine points to book great stays that way. Obviously, you can apply for Hilton credit cards and get the welcome bonuses. So that's always a good way to get points. And another one I want to talk about is paid stays. So Hilton, um, uh, they're actually not the most generous right off the bat. Like, if you aren't using a Hilton credit card, and you don't have a lot of elite status and you stay at a Hilton, the amount of points you earn isn't great compared to some others. But if you have a Hilton credit card, particularly the Aspire card that earns 14 points per dollar at Hilton properties, and if you have top tier elite status, which you would have if you had the Aspire card, then you get the Diamond Elite bonus, which is really big. And if you stay during the time that Hilton's running one of their double point or even triple point bonuses, then their overall stay can earn an enormous number of points. I mean, it's really like
Yeah, I mean,
out of
sometimes
out
it's
of
like
control.
40 something or 50 something points per
Yeah.
dollar spent. So, if you have paid hotel stays, you can rack up a lot of Hilton points pretty quickly with those paid stays. And that was one of the reasons that I always did like Hilton years ago, because when I was paying for more of my stand, nowadays I use a lot of points, but in the beginning I didn't have as many points. And so I was still paying for a lot of stays, and I would often find a Hilton that was within my budget, and I would earn, a billion points paying for the stay. And so certainly if you're in that type of a situation, this might be more appealing. Now, I mean, a few weeks ago or months ago or last year, you may have looked at it and said, well, yeah, I could earn a ton of Hilton points, but they aren't worth that much. So, maybe I'll stay with Marriott or Hyatt or whatever instead. But now I think if these SLH properties appeal to you, you're going to look at that and say, wow, 40 or 50 points per dollar that I can turn around and maybe use at 1 cent per point towards a luxury property that I never would have thought about staying at before. I think suddenly Hilton probably, it would appeal to me more anyway. If I were paying for lots of stays, I'd be more
Yeah.
interested in Hilton now than I ever was.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It also using their credit cards for spend becomes a little bit more interesting to me. Now, the base earning rate for most of the Hilton cards is 3 points per dollar if there's no category bonus, and that's not that great. But if you have the Hilton Surpass card, you can get 6 points per dollar at U.S. restaurants, U.S. supermarkets, and U.S. gas stations. So for those types of purchases, that can be a decent use of your spend. And the Hilton Business Card will give you 5x on all eligible purchases up to $100,000 per calendar year. And so that could be worthwhile if you're looking to earn more Hilton points through spend.
I think it's probably important to mention you said the 3 Hilton points per dollar spent isn't that great. But yet, a few minutes ago, we were talking about how you can often earn Hilton points at, say, 3 times the clip of Hyatt points. And so we were using that number as being like a comparative tool. I think it's
Right.
worth mentioning why somebody probably shouldn't be considering doing a ton of spend at 3x, especially when we're talking about now maybe getting 1 cent per point out of it. And the reason for that, at least in my opinion, if you disagree or have another reason, please share that. But is because Hilton points are very, very, very frequently on sale for half a cent a point. And so
Right.
if you were to not use your Hilton card, but instead use a card that earns 2% cash back, and there's tons of those on the market, and then use your cash back to buy Hilton points, every 2 pennies that you've earned per dollar spent could turn into 4 Hilton points by buying them when they're on sale. So you're better off with a 2% cash back card and buying points on sale than you are earning 3 points per dollar on ordinary spend with one of the Hilton cards.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly it. And in fact, that gets to our next way of getting lots of Hilton points is you buy them when they're on sale for half a cent each. You can think of it this way that one of these top tier properties that usually cost thousands of dollars a night, you could buy 150,000 points for $750, and so you can think of it as like, oh, I'm staying at this multi-thousand-dollar a night property for $750 a night by buying the points in advance, and it would be less than that if you do a fifth night free type of redemption. Um, Now, $750, that's a lot to spend for a night at a hotel, but we're talking about some, really, really high-end luxury things. So it can be worth it under the right circumstances. Absolutely.
Well, and
The
certainly
other,
if you were already considering paying the cash rate at one of these places, like on the
yeah,
first day when this broke, I think in my very first post about this, I mentioned Greg's iCard's private hotel in Queenstown, New Zealand. And if you had bought the points for it, you'd save about $1,000 a night by buying the points instead of paying the cash rate. So
yeah, yeah.
it's
The
worth
other
looking.
thing, we frequently have posts about welcome bonuses that are, let's say, $750 welcome bonus or a $750 bank bonus for getting a new bank account or a new investment account kind of thing. You can think of those as being 150,000 point Hilton bonuses if you get that cash bonus and you use it during a sale on Hilton points to buy points at half a cent each. So that's kind of an interesting, 150,000 points suddenly sounds like a lot, even though it's really just, the $750 in a way.
Yeah. And, it's worth a mention here too, though, that Hilton does cap how many points you can buy per year. And then during the sales, they always increase that. So during the current sale, as we record this, you can buy up to 240,000 points and then you get 100% bonus. So you get another 240. So essentially, you can buy up to 480,000 points right now for $2,400. But like Greg mentioned earlier, Hilton allows pooling. You can pool with up to 10 people. So you and 9 family members could each buy those 480,000 points if you wanted to buy as many as possible. And you could end up having 4.8 million points. So you can buy a very large number of points. And of course, your family members could probably use your card to buy the points and then pool them together with you. So it's not hard to buy more than whatever the stated limit per person is because of the ability to pool points with friends or family. And of course, with Hilton, it doesn't have to be household members. Any friends or family, can pool with you. It's not instant, so that whole process is a little convoluted sometimes. But at any rate, worth a mention that even though there is a limit, you can probably buy the points you need for most days.
Yeah, that's good to know. Is there any limit to how many points you could pool together? Like, some other programs have limits to how many you can move around.
That's a good question. I don't believe so. But now that you say that, I guess I should check that, and then maybe get back to you next week with either a mea culpa if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But I don't believe that there is any cap.
I'm sure we'll hear from listeners if,
Right,
if there's a
right.
limit. That'll be in next week's giant mailbag. Watch for it then.
All right, so you got some options for earning 6x and some options for earning 5x. And we mentioned the 6x categories on the Hilton Surpass, but we're going to get to the free night certificates too on that in a few minutes. We talked about buying points. You can also transfer points from Amex membership rewards. Is that a good deal?
I mean, so when you transfer points from Amex, they transfer 1 to 2. And so you can certainly get a lot of points quickly that way. And because Amex's membership rewards program has so many ways to earn points quickly with big welcome bonuses, big friend referral bonuses, um, big category bonuses. Like they have the business gold with 4x categories and the personal gold with 4x categories. All these things are the racket and shopping portal. So many ways to earn membership rewards so easily that you could certainly generate a lot of Hilton points quickly through Amex membership rewards. So why would that not be a good deal? Well, it gets back to that thing about how often they have the points on sale for half a cent each. So if you're aware of that, and if the sale is on at the time you need the Hilton points, then it feels like you're only getting 1 cent per point value from your Amex membership rewards points because you could have bought those same points for half a cent each. So you're getting two. Remember, you're getting 2 Hilton points per 1 membership rewards point.
And by the way, if you have ways to cash out your membership rewards points, then you might rather just buy the points. And if you really wanted to cash out your points at about 1 cent each, there are ways to cash out membership rewards points for 1 cent or even a little bit better than 1 cent per point. And then just buy the points with a card where you're going to earn a new welcome bonus or you're going to earn some return on that spend separately. So, you have the ability to do that.
Right. Now, of course, if at the time you need the points and you see the hotel that you want is available, and if there isn't a sale right then I'd say go for it because you're probably looking at an award stay where you're getting great value for your Hilton points, and then so the value for your membership rewards would be very good. But the other thing you should look for are transfer bonuses. So transfer bonuses from Amex membership rewards to Hilton, pretty common. We see them 2 to 3 times a year, typically around 30%, but it varies what exactly it is. When it is 30%, you're talking about transfer from membership rewards to Hilton of 1 to 2.6. And so that makes your even when points are on sale for half a cent each, that makes it your membership rewards worth 1.3 cents per point, which again isn't extraordinary, but it's not so bad that I would feel bad about doing that under that circumstance.
Yeah, particularly if it's a redemption you're very excited about and or you're topping off a certain amount. You don't necessarily need to transfer the whole bit. There's certainly plenty of situations, even if you're transferring over the whole amount, where that might feel good anyway, or not feel bad. So I could see that with a transfer bonus. And in the past, I was pretty anti-transferring to Hilton even during a transfer bonus, but I think that this really does open up a lot more opportunities to get far better than average value. So I would I would probably say, yeah, go ahead and do it like Greg did here. But those aren't the only ways. Of course, you can, as Greg mentioned before, you can earn your membership rewards points in lots of different ways. We said welcome bonuses and spending on your cards and referral bonuses and Rakuten, which you mentioned briefly. But for anybody not familiar, Rakuten's a shopping portal, and you have the option to either earn cash back or connect it to your membership rewards account and earn membership rewards points. So when you see 10% cash back, you could instead be earning 10 membership rewards points per dollar spent, for instance. And so I think it's worth earning membership rewards points over pennies through Rakuten if you have an Amex account. So that's certainly worth keeping in mind. And then, of course, there are Amex cards with bonus categories, 3X, 4X, 5X in different categories. And so then, if you double those effectively going to Hilton, or you do even better than that by transferring during a transfer bonus, then those spending categories look better than the Hilton card spending categories in many cases.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And finally, I guess I should mention also that if you have a really good cashback card, we've talked in the past about Bank of America, how if you have their top tier platinum preferred honors, you get a 75% bump in the value or in the rewards earned on certain Bank of America credit cards, and that can turn a cashback card into a card that earns 2.62% everywhere, starting from 1.5%. Moves it up to 2.62%. And if you have one of those, then that's better than earning 5x Hilton points with the business Hilton card, because you can use 2.5% of the rewards to buy Hilton points when they're on sale for half a cent each to get 5 points per dollar, and then you still have some money left over for to pay for lunch. So you get your lunch at your Hilton hotel.
That's right. So you can get that free lunch after all. Yeah. And again, if you did that, if you pursued that strategy, then you're not locked into having to use that specific card to buy the points either. Keep in mind that, again,
Right.
if you're going to buy $2,400 worth of points, you could earn a welcome bonus on a new credit card, probably buying those $2,400 worth of points, and then just pay yourself back out of the cash back that you've earned at
Yeah.
2.62% back or whatever on the Bank of America card. So yeah, I like that strategy for earning better than 5 Hilton points per dollar spent. So that's all nice. There's lots of ways to earn points there then. What about free night certificates?
Yeah. So first up, the Hilton Aspire card. That's the high-end ultra premium card that is offered through Amex. Will give you a free night each year. So starting from when you first are approved for the card, you'll get your cert about 8 weeks later, I think it is, and
Yep.
then every year upon renewal. Um, so that's a great benefit to that card, and these free nights are uncapped, so you can use them at these properties that cost 150,000 points. You can only use them for when a standard room is available. If you only see premium room awards available, you're not going to use your free night certificate, but if there's a standard room available, then you can book that. That card also gives you additional free night awards after $30,000 and $60,000 of spend in a calendar year. Now it's debatable whether it's worth spending that much with the Aspire card, especially the Aspire cards bonus categories aren't as widely useful as the Surpass cards bonus categories. So
Yeah,
you'll have to look at that yourself, whether it's worth doing.
I would argue it's maybe worth considering if you're spending a lot on Hilton stays. I mean, maybe you're somebody who travels a lot for work and you're able to use your own card and get reimbursed. So, I mean, if you're
Yeah.
already spending 10 or 15 or $20,000 a year on hotel stays that are getting reimbursed, and you're going to put those Hilton stays on your Aspire card to earn your 14 points per dollar, you're
Oh
getting
man.
relatively close, then hey, yeah, it's worth bridging
Yeah.
the gap in order to get both points and the free night certificate.
You would have so many Hilton points too.
You
If you
would.
were
You
doing
would.
that, right? I mean, just $10,000 of spend with all those multipliers, because you're
Right.
getting what I think 14x with the Aspire card. You're getting
I think 10x
a
base, 100% bonus for elite status, right? So you're 20, so
right,
it's 34 with no promotions going on. And then if
right.
they're running double
Tag on
base
all the
points, you're at
promotions.
44, triple points, you're at 54. Yeah, I mean, a lot. You'd have a lot of Hilton points.
Yeah, a lot of Hilton points. Um, Okay, yes, yes. There's definitely circumstances where it can make sense to get to that 30K, or maybe even the 60K spend, depending on your situation. But for most of us, that's not. I don't look at that. Like, I don't look at it personally and say, "Oh, I'm gonna
Agreed.
do that."
Agreed.
Um, what about the Hilton Surpass card? That's the mid-tier card. This one offers you a free night award after you spend $15,000 within a calendar year on the card. So that's a reasonable amount of spend. And it has those nice spend categories like US grocery stores, US restaurants, and US gas stations. Now, grocery stores are probably the one that most of us can most easily spend a lot at. And if you spend the 15,000 at grocery stores, or those other two categories, you're going to have a lot of Hilton points. Plus, you're going to have the free night certificate after just $15,000 spend.
Yeah, I think if you can do all or most of the $15,000 spend in the 6X bonus categories, it's almost a no-brainer. And if you don't believe me on that, let's talk some math for a second. Let's imagine that you did the $15,000 spend in categories that are on things that have no category bonus. So 3 points per dollar, which we already said is generally not a good play for your Hilton points. You have other ways to generate more. But let's say you did the $15,000 spend at just 3X. You'd have 45,000 Hilton points. Now you could have bought those Hilton points on sale for half a cent each. So that's about $225. So if you will use your free night certificate at one of these higher end SLH properties, let's say, just to have an easy number, that you valued the free night certificate at $500. So between the 500 and the 225 worth of points, you're at $725 back on $15,000 spend. That's like a return on spend of 4.8%. So even if you were doing that spend at in no bonus category, if you value your free night certificate at $500, which that's
It's totally
certainly
reasonable.
I think it's reasonable, but obviously that'll vary according to what you think. Then you're getting almost 5% back on the card. So if you're
Yeah,
actually doing it in a category where you get double the number of points because you get 6X in U.S. supermarkets and restaurants and gas stations, I mean, then you're talking about I think a real no-brainer, because then you're talking about almost just under $1,000 worth of value on 15K spend, and at that, then you're looking at obviously very, very good return on your spend. That'd be like almost more than 6.5% back, which is
right.
excellent return. Now that's only true if you spend the 15,000 and get the free night certificate and you value the free night certificate that highly.
Yeah,
But if you do,
yeah.
then I think that's a good play.
Right, right. And there's some really nice high-end Hilton properties that cost 95,000 points per night.
Yeah,
And so you would earn 90,000 points that way with that
at
spend if I did the
6X. Yep.
math in my head
Yep.
correctly.
Yep.
So, that could tag on the 5,000 points from somewhere else, and you're talking about two free nights after the $15,000 spend because of the free night certificate plus the points. And so that's really good.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
And keep in mind, if you have the capacity to do the spend, you can do that in two-player mode. Like if you have a partner that you're playing the game with, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, sister, cousin, whatever, if you both get the card and you're both able to meet the spend, then you're talking about two free night certificates and enough points for almost two more nights. So with those two cards and 15K spend on each, you'd be looking at darn near 4 nights at most of the Hilton properties. So that's pretty good.
yeah, yeah. Um, the other Hilton cards, like the no fee Hilton card and the Hilton business card, they don't offer free nights through spend or as an anniversary bonus or anything like that. But sometimes they have special promotional welcome bonuses that have that. So you could be on the lookout for, applying for the either one of those cards when there's a free night as part of the welcome bonus, and that could be another way to get a free night certificate.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, very good. And every now and then we see offers for the cards. I haven't seen this in a while, but when you're actually at a Hilton property and you connect to the Wi-Fi, you may see a different offer. I remember for years the welcome bonuses were just points on the Surpass card, but for a long time, I don't think this is the case right now, but for a long time, you get two free night certificates if you were applying on the Wi-Fi at a Hilton property instead. So it's worth checking that out if you're staying in a Hilton property and seeing, does it show me a different offer for the card? If you value the free night certificates, it might be worth checking for that now and then if you're not looking to do this like right now. But keeping this in
Mhm.
mind for the future. All
Yeah.
right. So you could earn a bunch of free night certificates. You can earn a bunch of Hilton points we've talked about now. So once you have your free night certificates and you have your Hilton points, the next step is, how do I find availability at these places?
Yeah. So some of them are widely available, but a number of them, if you go and just like pick a specific set of dates and look for your free nights, you are not going to find them because a lot of them are small properties. They only have so many rooms designated as standard rooms. I think there's some that probably only have one, room in the whole place that's designated as standard room. And so the chance of finding availability on just one set of dates can be hard. Now, luckily, Hilton does let you search in the calendar to see when free nights are available. But now
Sort
tell
of.
us about this, Nick. Um,
When you said that,
you found that?
I think I had a tick there. I was like,
Yeah.
kind
Well,
of luckily.
tell us about this and tell us how it varies from desktop to app.
Well, I have to assume that this might be somewhat glitchy. So this piece of advice may not age well over the long haul because maybe they'll get this all fixed. But at least as of the first few days after the launch, the calendar function just is not working on the SLH properties. So if you're used to using that availability calendar with a flexible date search to look, just page month after month and see, you need to drop that habit for the SLH properties for now anyway, because it's just going to say they're not available. And so if that's all you did, then you might have missed the availability that was there. Also on desktop, I have found that lots of properties have shown not available, even though they are available if you search in the app. And I think that there is some perhaps variance in this where some might show up on the desktop and not on the app, and some in the app and not the desktop. So I think the takeaway is search in both, because again, I found places that I thought weren't available at all because I had been looking at the desktop, and then I happened to look on my phone and they were. Or actually, when I started writing the post about it, everything was available. And then people were commenting saying things weren't available. And I was like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? I pulled out my phone, I looked at it, and I'm like, that property is available. I'm looking at it right now. And so then I thought to myself, oh, I wonder if they're searching on desktop. Let me just look and see what it says there. And that's, I think, when I stumbled on the fact that, oh, yeah, on desktop it says it's not, but in the app it is. And I knew they were available because I was able to book a few of them. So
Yeah.
it's worth checking both. Also, some properties seem to have a minimum night requirement. So like that
Yep.
Sail Rock property that looks amazing in Turks and Caicos, I think it has a 3 night minimum because I haven't found it available for anything fewer than 3 nights. And even when I find a
Yep.
3 night stretch available, it's not available for 1 or 2 nights. So that's another tip.
Right, right. And in fact, I'm going to talk about that exact property in a moment
Okay.
because if you strike out finding nights available with the Hilton app or the desktop or both, another option is to use various tools that exist, and one of them is called Rooms.aero. That's Rooms.aero. It's free unless you want to do alerts. You could use it completely for free. Um, go to that site, click the menu that says hotels, and pick Hilton. And then search. You need to already know the name of the SLH property you're looking for, but search for it by name by clicking. Yeah, once you find it by searching by name, there's a button called that says Find Rooms. So you click that, and it'll show you a list of all of the nights that are available and how much they cost. Now, it's going to show you even the premium room awards, which you'll remember we mentioned earlier aren't good value for your Hilton points, and you wouldn't be able to use free night certificates at those. So what you could do is if that happens, you can filter in rooms.area. You could filter to points less than 150K, or there's various thresholds, but uh, picking points less than 150,000 actually means less than or equal to, and that way that'll eliminate most of that noise of all those uh,
Premium room awards.
premium room awards. Thank you. um, and here's what I love about this tool, and I saw this by looking specifically at that Sail Rock hotel, which is what in Turks and
Turks and Caicos.
Caicos.
Yep.
Is that where it
Yep.
is?
Caicos. I don't know how you pronounce it, but
Um, Yeah. And it actually the Rooms.aero actually showed me a message. Like I didn't see any rooms when I clicked into it. Any nights available. Let's put it that way. But there was a message at the top that said this hotel appears to release more award availability for multi-night stays, likely via a
Mm,
minimum night requirement. If you only need a shorter stay, consider booking a longer stay and attempting to shorten it. So all
mm,
I had to do was there's a nights drop down. At first I
hmm.
changed it to 2 and still nothing. Change it to 3 instantly hundreds of results show up. This hotel, at least this morning before we recorded this, was wide
Widely
open for
available, right?
bookings, widely available. And that's astounding because this is a very expensive resort.
Yeah,
The
I
other
mean, it
fun
looks
thing you could do
amazing,
with
and
this,
a lot of people said, "Oh, I can't find it, I can't find it," and yet, like you said, widely available for 3 night stays, surprisingly. And I found that to be the case for other
yeah.
SLH properties too. Where I was like, "Wow, I am surprised at how available these places are." I don't know if that'll last, but enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so, boy, so that's great news. And I was also just astounded by
Yeah,
Rooms.area, how easy it made it. Now
yeah,
you're not going to see it in calendar view, so it's a little awkward looking at a list of dates instead of at a calendar. But given how easy and fast it is to search for availability, I'm loving it. And the fact that it's free to do as much as I just said is terrific. There are some features that I don't know what all the features are where you need a pro account. Now, the pro account is that this tool is built by the same people who make seats.aero. And so you need that pro account with seats.aero to get the expanded um, abilities also with Rooms.aero. One of the things you could do, I believe it's a pro feature, is you could create alerts. So if the dates you're interested in aren't available, or maybe nothing's available, and you just want to be alerted whenever something's available, you can create an alert and ask Rooms.aero to send you an alert when that happens. So that's really cool. There's other tools like Max My Point that can do similar things. And I don't know that they've rolled out as many of the SLH properties as I'm recording this as Rooms.aero has, um, but that's another place where you can get similar functionality. Um, and there are other tools as well, but those two are my go-to right now for hotel things.
yeah. I mean, I think it's awesome that Seats.Arrow is giving you the tip, like tipping you off to the fact that a multi-night stay is more likely to have availability because I didn't know when I was searching places to write the post. I was just trying different things to see, oh wow, I was searching individual dates initially and I wasn't finding anything
Yeah.
available at some places. And I was like, oh man, is there really nothing available? And then it just dawned on me that I know some hotels will do that. And so I started searching 2 nights and 3 nights or 5 nights maybe I started at, and then I started trimming it back to see, when does the availability disappear. And so nice to have that tip that this place you're looking at has a minimum stay because, if you were looking for a 2 night stay and, you're looking over and over again, you're like, wow, this place is never available. It'd be really helpful to have that tip that maybe I just need to increase by one more night.
It really would. Now, Hilton, this time, if you're listening, I hope you are, because you should put that right in your interface when that happens. I mean, all hotel chains, that
Yeah.
have online award searches, it would be really helpful to see that up front. But in the meantime, Rooms.aero does that for you, and that's fantastic.
Now, Hilton, if you're listening, my other piece of advice is to go to Hyatt.com and check out their Pay My Way option to be able to mix points and free night certificates, because that's going to be my gripe here, is that I don't know as though it's possible to book a place like Sail Rock, for instance, with a free night certificate because it has that 3 night minimum. And I don't think that you can pull that off even over the phone. I don't know for sure, I guess, but I believe from a past attempt to do this, I wasn't
Yeah,
able to
I think
stack
you can
multiple.
because
You think so?
I'm pretty sure that I booked a Curio Collection hotel once that had a 3 night
Uh,
minimum. In fact, yeah, no, I know this, and I had to call Hilton, which you have to do anyway with their free night certificates,
yeah.
and they were able to. I was able to book it, whether it was all free night certificates and or was partly in. with points. I
Points.
don't remember for sure, but
All
I
right.
know there was at least one or two free night certificates involved.
Well,
So
you're gonna have to work on
um,
that and report back with your results in terms of your experiments for that, because I know I ran into a situation once where I wasn't able to do it, but I don't know that I had an agent that knew what they were doing, because
uh,
we often say with these kinds of things that phone agents just don't always know. Like we said earlier,
yeah,
when you were talking about the American Airlines agent that missed availability on a United flight, it wasn't necessarily malicious. She
yeah,
just didn't
yep,
probably know it was there. And so the same thing might have happened to me when I tried to put together multiple free night certificates for a situation like that. So worth a call. And if you
yeah,
do try,
yeah,
let us know in the comments whether it works for you on a property
right.
like Sail Rock that requires 3 nights in order to book an award to begin with. Are you able to do that with 3 free night certificates? I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and also if you were able to, and it was recent enough that you could remember exactly what you did, which was too long ago
Right.
for me to remember the
Right.
details.
Right.
That'd be great to hear those details. Um, the oh yeah, the what I thought you were gonna say, if Hilton is listening, is make the free night certificates available to book online. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yes, Hyatt's Pay My Way is great that you can mix and match points and free nights, but you can't even, do an all free night certificate
That's true.
stay online with Hilton. So
Annoying.
they really need to get that fixed.
They do. They do. I don't understand. Well, I mean, I guess I understand why it's the way it is so that there can be some more breakage. But man, I really wish that I could book them online. That's definitely a gripe I should have aired there. So thank you for bringing that up. All right. I think that more or less ties us up on SLH and ends our main event and brings us to this week's question of the week, which is totally different, not about any of this at all. So we'll throw you a different question altogether, Craig. This one comes in from Amy. So Amy says, "Hi, I'm wondering if you can help answer my question. I got the Chase Freedom Unlimited card in October 2023, and at the time, they were offering double points for the first year. Now, to be clear, that offer was expired a long time ago, but that was the offer under which she applied for the card. I called to verify the offer, and they confirmed that I have the card for that after I have the card for a year, my account will be credited with the same number of points that I earned in that first year, effectively doubling my balance. So
Mhm.
again, that double offer was to double your all the points you earned at the end of the first year. So she goes on to say, but I'd like to go ahead and transfer over the points I've earned so far on the Freedom Unlimited to my Chase Sapphire Reserve account, because of course Chase allows you to combine points, so that I can use them to book travel in the next month. I'm worried that if I pull the points out of my Chase Freedom Unlimited account, they won't be there at the end of my first year, and I might not get full credit for the double. Do you know if the points have to be in the Freedom Unlimited account on my first year anniversary in order to receive the credit, or will all of the points that I earned on that card be doubled, regardless of whether they're there or have been transferred out? Thank you so much for the amazing service you provide and for answering my question. All the best, Amy. So, Greg, does Amy need to keep her points in her Freedom Unlimited account?
No, she does not. You should get the doubling regardless of what you do with the points, whether you keep them there or use them all or move them over. You should be good to go. And the only reason I'm putting should in there is because anytime there's any kind of bonus involved, there's always the chance of a computer error. But that has nothing to do with whether you use the points, whether you'll receive the doubling. You will receive them.
Yeah. Yeah.
99% guaranteed.
Agreed. Yeah. Chase is tracking how much you're spending, and they're going to double the points based on how much you've spent. And you can very easily look at how much you spent all of last calendar year and so far this calendar year and see how many points, figure out how many points you should be getting probably. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that. Bank computer is tracking that. I wanted to bring this up because this is also a question that often comes up with the Southwest Companion Pass. And since we've seen new offers lately for lots of Southwest points, I thought it was worth a mention for this because the question comes up often. Do I need to have all of the points in my account? You need 100 and you need to earn 135,000 Southwest points in a single calendar year to get the Companion Pass, or if you have one of the credit cards, you only need 125,000. And people often ask, do I need to make sure I have all 125,000 in there at once? Or can I start spending them? And the answer is you can start spending them. You just need to have earned them in the calendar year. They don't need to sit there
Yeah.
and wait special. And that's the same with other issuers too, like Discover and some of their cards offers a double cash back at the end of the first year. Same thing. You can use the cash back as you go. You don't have to wait until the end of the year. And they're not going to like look at your cash back balance and be like, oh, that's how much we need to double. The computer system hopefully is keeping track of all that. So I thought it was worth a mention because it's something applicable in other situations too.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you guys very much for listening today. If you enjoyed this show and you'd like to get more of our stuff in your email inbox each day or each week, you want to go to frequentmiler.com/subscribe to join our email list. Follow us on all the various social media. You can join our Frequent Miler Insiders Facebook group where you can ask and answer questions about these things all the time. And wherever you're watching or listening, again, don't forget to subscribe, enable notifications, leave us some feedback. We appreciate all of that. Speaking of feedback, if you have a piece of feedback that you'd like to be considered for a future mailbag or a question of the week segment, you can send that too.
Send it to mailbag@frequentmiler.com. Bye, everybody.